All right, you BC314D fellow masochists, listen up. I finished the recapping the tube shelf, and I took my time. You know, I'm 72 years old, don't want to make a mistake. So I'm running the radio on two supplies. A 12.6 for the filaments. I'll plug that in. I'll plug in I think it's like 300 volt supply. And the radio makes a pop noise, like it should. I'm waiting for it to come on, and all of a sudden I see some smoke. I pulled the plug, and I went in around where I did some work, suspecting that I screwed up. I accept that. And I got the ohm meter, and I have a dead short between B plus and ground, which is very hard to find, but I'm saying to myself, the radio it did work. I'm taking out caps that are leaky and will knock out the sensitivity of the radio. And little by little, every time I change the section of capacitors, I turn the radio on to make sure I didn't lose what I already had. That's a good practice. So I now have a short between B plus and ground. And this is just before bedtime last night. And I said to myself, don't plug it in before bedtime. Wait till the next morning. This way, if it is bad, it won't mess. You won't lay in bed thinking about, well, I wasn't lucky. I plugged it in, made a pop noise like it should. You know, the AC going on after the tubes, the DC going on after the tubes have been lit. And I start humming around. I got it short. So I go on the schematic, and I'm thinking to myself, all right, let me go across each capacitor. And most of the capacitors go from ground to a screen grid, or ground to a plate bypass. But none of them, if they shorted, would cause a dead short, except this last one right here. And I put my meter across it, it's reading dead short. And right away I'm looking, did I solder? Did I get a blob? Did I get blah, 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 the whole thing, you know. I put the wire in the wrong space. Is a wire soldered and now it's touching something else? No. This 600 volt capacitor here, with 300 volts across it, popped. It went shorted. Now I'm starting to worry. I use these caps in a lot of radios, and the radios are working at 200 volts, and these things are 600. They should be really good capacitors. But you do get like 1 in 1,000 capacitors that are bad. But what's bothering me now is I use these 0.1s in a lot of radios. I bought them in bulk. And but you know, I got lucky. I didn't have to tear this thing all apart. All I have to do is replace this cap with another one. You know, you can see I used bell wire. I stripped off the bell wire insulation, and each lead of my capacitors has we call it spaghetti on it, just so I wouldn't get any shorts. That's why when it happened, I'm like, okay, maybe a cap somewhere else in the radio let go. And I start checking them. None of the other ones that are left in the radio are dead shorted. So, you know, I'm more caps to do, but this is the thing you could run into as a beginner. You're recapping, you're doing a good job, but the caps you bought were made in China. They're junk. And one of them lets go. And now you don't realize that. You're putting a new capacitor in the place where the cap is bad. Never realizing the cap you put in could also go bad or be bad out of the bag. I just wanted to tell you that. That's the hardest thing to accept. When you're repairing stuff, things that go wrong as you're doing it. It's like you're working on a radio and you turn it over. And then you plug it in and you got a short. And it turns out to be a staple. The person that had the radio dropped some staples into the freaking radio. Phonographs, I found staples in all kinds of things. And this radio here, whenever you turned it over, you hear a jiggling noise. It turned out to be a C-clip, you know, a Jesus clip from some other radio. So I don't think this radio was ever used, but I think that the cover was off it because it looks like it's got nicotine on the inside of the case. or it's been handled with. But anyway, the resistors all seem to be good. The caps are all bad. So I'm still plodding forward. But yesterday or last night, I'm laying in bed going, you know what you should do? You should take that radio and put some firecrackers in it. Power it up, and as it's playing, set them off like Shango does. And then take it into the and put it in the garbage can where it frickin' belongs. Now you got to remember, the last 3 radios I did was a BC348 that a person tried to put. He bought a circuit board that would make it a dual conversion radio, and he cut all the things all the wires it told him to cut, and he cut a few more. And I got it all working. Oh, and he took out an IF can because you're putting in another IF. You don't really need 6 IFs. So anyway, and then in the comments section, the guy goes, "You really need to learn how to read schematics." It was somebody else's bodged radio, and I stayed with it. I got it working. I'm winding a new. I took an IF can that was real low in frequency, took windings off it, rewound it, made it for 455 or whatever. And the other guy, oh, it won't work, but it did. And then the next radio after that, we went down even deeper into hell, radio hell, was the Hellcrafters SX42, which every cap in the radio, including the ones in all the IF cans, were bad. So I did that radio, and I swore off radios. So I said, I don't want any more radios. I got enough of them. And I started realizing I wasn't sleeping good at night. I have to have a project to think about or work on the last 2 hours of the day. That's when I really don't have a lot of energy to go outside and rake leaves or anything, and it's dark. And I probably could go for a walk, but at 70, 72, the sidewalks aren't that great. I could trip, fall, break a hip, whatever. So I needed something to work on. So I bought this radio. Little did I know, this thing's another steeping heap of crap with those oil-filled capacitors that will go bad. And other people, see, when they recap this radio, it's one of the first they've done. I've done, I think, 20 so far, recapping, just the last 3 years. Those command radios with the little flower pots, and I ground off the top and pulled the inside out, put the new caps in, closed it up, made it look like it was original. Did all that. And now I have another radio that's even more pathetic in the IF cans. Besides having the caps in the IF cans across the coil, they decided to put some bypass caps up inside the IF can. But it's not as bad as the Hellcrafters. There are terminals in there that are, well made. You can unsolder the cap and put a new cap on. But I just want to tell you, you could get a bad cap out of the package. And I won't say I bought 1,000 of these, but I bought more than 200 recapping. These are 0.1s. They're green. They say 600 volts on them. And there is no voltage in this radio that could burn that capacitor out at 600 volts. The most I'd had in any spot is 300. Even 110, you put it across 110 volts, it's not going to go bad because it's not electrolytic. I don't know if it's paper. I don't know what it is. It's epoxy dipped. It should be a good capacitor, but I managed to find a bad one. But I just want to tell you, when you're doing this stuff, there's all kinds of things going wrong. And I knew not to power that thing up before bedtime. And I still did it. I'm thinking, I really took my time putting that caps in. I know I double checked every connection because my eyesight's not that good. And this LED light is weird. I'm going to tell you, it's weird. Well, anyway, I said to myself, John, you did it right with a puff of smoke. And I'm like, okay. So I'm laying in bed thinking about I even got up a second time. This is the B plus comes in on this wire. It goes over here. It comes off onto a resistor and cap. And it comes over here to a resistor and cap. And that's how the B plus goes to these two tubes. And then it also, the B plus goes through a resistor here to that tube. So the short is where the B plus from the radio comes into this terminal right there. And then I'm thinking, okay, I look behind there and making sure no solder dribbled down in there. And then finally, I said, let me just take one leg of the cap off. And this thing's dead shorted. I'm like, oh my God, I don't need this. I don't need this kind of aggravation. I've already had, this radio's been very aggravating already. It's right now at the level the Hellcrafters SX 42 was at. But that one, after a while, I just accepted every capacitor, silver mica cap, was going to be bad in all the IF cans. Remember, that radio has FM and AM, so I had a lot of capacitors, and they didn't have any standard values in there, so they were harder to find. Of course, eBay always has what you need, and I was able to get the caps. I think that's it. All right, that's it.